Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Mom Street USA. I am your host, Jackie, and on today's episode, we are talking about a somewhat unique topic. We are going to cover what kids actually care about at Disney. Now, don't get me wrong, the kids also care about the rides and the characters and all those things that you would automatically think of when you think about what kids might care about at the parks. However, there are some other things to consider that your children may enjoy also at the parks. The goal of this episode is to kind of point some of those out to you, but also encourage you to maybe slow down a little, maybe let loose of the plan a little bit, let go of the reins, and just enjoy the time in the Disney parks with your family. So, let's jump in because I've got some good thoughts for you today. So, what do kids actually care about when they go to Disney, right? It's so hard to predict unless you've been there a couple times with your kids. And even then, as they grow and get older and their interests change, it can be so hard to know or anticipate what it is that they might be most interested in and care the most about on your Disney trip. As parents, we spend months, if not longer, planning the big moments at Disney, right? We plan all the dining, we plan the resort, we plan the parks, we plan the rides and the lightning lanes, the itineraries. So many things to plan. But our kids often don't remember all of that, unfortunately, right? Most of the time they're grateful at least, but they typically tend to remember the much smaller moments that you have while you're down at the Disney parks. So, my kids have been very spoiled in their lives, and they have been several times to Disney World. And so many of the memories that I have of them are not going on rides. I have a ton of us going on rides, meeting characters, the things that you typically think of. But there are some little memories that I have that have nothing to do with that, right? I can remember the first time that my daughter tried Dole Whip, and she became obsessed, rightfully so, right, with Dole Whip. And it became a every time we go, she's got to go get Dole Whip. So we were getting it in the parks for a while, but one of the trips we planned to make a big trip over to the Polynesian to grab it over there. We went when it was kind of getting a little dark outside, so, the tiki torches were on, the whole thing, right? And to her, that's, one of the best moments. She still talks about when we went to get Dole Whip. She can sometimes not remember the name of the ice cream, but because she just calls it pineapple ice cream. But when we went to get Dole Whip, I can very vividly remember my son's first time just walking into Galaxy's Edge after he had started watching Star Wars. So we had been to Galaxy's Edge a little bit prior to that, but in the last year, 18 months or so, he's really gotten into Star Wars. And so my husband has been watching the original trilogy and then the prequels with him. And I can remember going back into Galaxy's Edge with him after we had started watching and after he knew way more, and just seeing him light up and seeing him look at all the ships and be able to name them. And when he saw Kylo Ren for the first time, when we met Darth Vader for the first time, those little things he remembers more. He loves Rise of the Resistance, but he remembers those things just as much, if not more, than going on the ride for the first time. I've told this story before about my daughter. Her first trip was 2021, early 2021, when the parks were still at limited capacity after the pandemic. And we had planned for 2 full Magic Kingdom days because we weren't really sure what the crowds were gonna be. It was very much going into the unknown. There were no lightning lanes at the time. So, we planned 2 full days at Magic Kingdom. We wanted to make sure we gave ourselves enough time. Well, the first day we were there, we went on the carousel because it's such a fun thing. I had no idea how much my daughter was going to just absolutely fall in love with that carousel at Magic Kingdom. And so now every time we go to Magic Kingdom, she says, "Or we're riding the carousel, right?" And it's like, "Yes, yes, yes, of course we will ride the carousel." But our second day in Magic Kingdom, she insisted, she's 2 at the time, insisted that we go immediately to the carousel first. So that's what we did. There's just so many little stories like that that really mean more to kids and sometimes mean more to the parents too. But you have to really just like stop and slow down and think about it and take the moment to recognize it. Because what is it that your kids think about after a Disney trip? Is it always Tron or Guardians of the Galaxy or Rise of the Resistance? Or is it sitting, eating a Mickey ice cream bar, making a giant mess on the curb of Main Street while you're waiting for the parade to come by? Is it watching ducks at a resort and watching them swim around? We all love Disney ducks, right? Is it dancing during a parade? Is it playing in a splash pad? Is it going to Storybook Circus area and playing in the water outside of Barnstormer? Is it having a special moment with a cast member? Is it riding the Skyliner for the first time? All of these things are things that kids tend to care more about than getting on every single ride at a park. So, today we're going to talk more about what kids actually care about because it may not be what you're spending all your time planning for your trip, which again, I understand as a planner. I'm a massive planner. It's so hard to stop and think about, well, what happens if, or to just sometimes you just got to abandon the plan, right? You have to be flexible and you have to be in tune with what your kiddos are enjoying. If they're having fun dancing to music in the hub, but you've got a lightning lane for Buzz Lightyear, you can be late. You can modify it. You can skip it. Let them have their fun. Take the time to recognize those moments when you're in them so you don't regret looking back at them later and saying, oh man, I wish we had spent more time there. Right? So kids truly live in the moment. Adults view Disney and the Disney parks typically very differently from what kids do. Adults were focused on the reservations we made, the lightning lanes, how many rides we can get in the day, the budget. We did a whole episode on budgeting over here on Mom Street. That's things that I focus on too. Park strategy, itineraries, all of those things are what adults tend to focus on. But what do kids tend to focus on? Again, they live in the moment. They focus on, are they having fun? Are they having a good time? Or do they feel like they're being pulled and pushed around by the itinerary? Kids care about snacks. What kind of snacks do they get to try? Do they get to have a Dole Whip or a Mickey ice cream bar? Do they get to have, the special caramel popcorn from Epcot? Do they get to have the special thing that they saw on the festival menu over at Epcot? They care about characters and interacting with characters, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you're waiting in a line for 45 minutes to meet their favorite princess. That could be just something as simple as waving to them on the stage show, waving to them in a parade, getting to see them as you walk by World Showcase. So many different options with that. Kids care about being silly and being kids, right? They want to be able to dance to parades. They want to be able to do all those things. They want to have the ability to twirl and spin when they're listening to Elsa sing Let It Go at the stage show. Those are the things that feel special to them. Those are the things that they look forward to and the things that they remember. And those are some of the moments that kids remember most, right? Thinking about some other moments that kids might remember most, characters. And again, these are not necessarily character meet and greets. Again, I've already touched on this, but waving to Mickey during the parade, seeing the new Starlight Parade for the first time. I can't wait to take my kids. And that's like one of the things that we're going to highlight and have it be a priority for us is the new parade because they haven't seen it in person and they are going to freak out. They're going to absolutely freak out and love it so much. They've watched videos, they've seen photos, but that's something that, yes, it's on our itinerary, but it's also one of those little moments that kids remember most. A princess making eye contact and waving at them, blowing them a kiss. Donald from a parade float noticing their Donald t-shirt or hat that they have. There was an instance where my son had a Mickey Mouse Nuimo when one of the trips we went to Magic Kingdom, and he held it up so that Mickey could see it during the Festival of Fantasy Parade, and Mickey blew it a kiss and gave it a hand heart from the top of his float. Those are the things that kids remember the most. We don't need to be waiting in these super long lines. They just want to feel seen, right? Which is such like an intrinsic human thing. So Just something to remember and think about. Something else that kids will focus more on, unexpected treats. Maybe you notice that we're losing steam, but we're you and your kiddo are trying to make it to the fireworks. Grab a new popcorn bucket for them. Grab a Mickey ice cream bar for them. Grab a cupcake and share it sitting waiting for the parade to start. Grab your meal from Casey's, and if it's not too hot, instead of sitting at a table, go have a picnic on the hub grass. Again, if it's not too hot. There's no shade on that hub grass, which is terrible, but go sit there instead. Grabbing them their own refillable mug at your resort so they get to have one too, and they get to be a part of that and have it be a little unexpected bonus for them. These instances with snacks can also become the memories that you remember from being in the parks. They're going to remember, oh my gosh, mom bought me that super cool Pumbaa sipper from Animal Kingdom. That was so cool. And then I got to drink all of my drinks from it for the rest of our trip, and I got to carry it around with its little holder. Like, that's so cool. Oh my gosh, we got this really awesome Mickey Toy Soldier Christmas popcorn bucket. I love it so much. And every Christmas I get to get it out and I get to remember the fun times that we've had in the parks, right? Those are the things with snacks that are way more important than rushing through eating so you can run off to the next ride. Something else that kids might focus on or might enjoy more or actually care about, unexpected attractions. Something like riding the Main Street vehicles down Main Street might be the highlight of their day. Getting to go on the monorail. My kids are obsessed with the monorail. They love the monorail. So we ride it whenever we can. The same thing applies to the Skyliner or the boats. If you've got a kiddo that really likes boat transportation, take a friendship boat from Epcot to Hollywood Studios one day just for something fun to do. Take the ferry boat from Magic Kingdom back to the TTC, and then hop on a monorail and go to Epcot. There are so many different things that you can do that are just completely unexpected that your kids may just absolutely fall in love with. Disney buses. My kids, our first and second trips, they loved the buses. They were mad when we chose to drive instead of riding the bus because the buses are like a novelty, right? So when we get to Disney, they want to ride the buses. They want to go on the bus and experience that. My oldest, this last trip, wanted to stand on the bus every time. Even if there were seats, he wanted to stand and hold on because he thought that was the coolest thing. And he still will talk about that. And that's like something he actively would ask, are we taking the bus today? He wanted to know. So like things like that are another thing that kids are going to care more about sometimes than the rides in the parks. Another thing is having time to play. Sometimes giving them a little bit of extra time to play instead of rushing to the attractions is a much bigger deal to them. Let's say you're going to ride Dumbo and that playground inside that queue is open. Take the extra 10, 15 minutes and let them run around and explore it and play. Don't be in such a hurry that you have to get on the ride right away because it's your turn and it's time to go. Let them play. Same thing with the splash pad. Now, you want to plan accordingly for splash pads in the parks because you don't want any issues with wet clothes throughout the rest of the day. The same thing goes for the interactive cues, giving them time to play in the Winnie the Pooh line. Obviously, keeping your eye on them and not getting too far away from them in that queue, but letting them go explore and play. Taking them to the new animation courtyard area in Hollywood Studios. That area, I haven't even been, and I can already tell you that it is absolutely incredible, and it's going to be one of my favorite spaces in all of the Disney parks going forward because it's got interactive elements, it's got shade, it's got grass, it's got characters just out playing with the kids and interacting and having a good time. Let them go there and plan a while for them to stay and interact because you can play Duck, Duck, Goose with Donald. I've seen videos of Rapunzel braiding hair. I've seen videos of Mulan teaching warrior poses to kids. It's absolutely incredible. Things like that are worth so much more than a lightning lane to ride their favorite ride. Spending some time at your resort, getting to explore and run around the resort and going to arcades and just experiencing what your resort has to offer. Other little things that are a little bit more play-based are always a good idea, right? So prior to this episode, I did ask for some of our lovely Mom Street community members to chime in on different things that they've seen or experienced kids doing at the parks. And our good friend Melissa talked about something that is a little bit more play based that I wanted to mention. She said, not her kids or grandkids, but on their recent trip, a young family had made about 400 friendship bracelets to give out to cast members. We watched the little boy hand them to the cast members at the Indiana Jones show. And not only were the cast members wicked happy, but it brought her a lot of joy just watching the whole interaction. She told him how happy it made her, and he gave her one of the bracelets also. It brought tears to her eyes. She was so touched by his gesture, and he was probably about 5 or 6 years old. And she said it's been on her wrist ever since. And it's just a little friendship bracelet that says Chip on it, and it's the colors of the chipmunks, and it's got a little Mickey head charm on it. So things like that are just way more important for kids in the parks. Something else that kids actually care about at Disney, or may care about more than what you anticipate, is being included. This can be so important to your kiddos, whether it's their first trip or their 10th trip. Giving your kiddos the ability to be included. It can be just as basic and simple as letting them tap into their lightning lane. Let them scan their magic band. Let them hold the map or show them on your phone how to navigate. Picking the next ride, or even planning the day and helping to be a part of that. On our last family trip, on our very last park day, we gave the kids the day. And we told them, we said, whatever you guys want to do, that's what we're going to do today. So you guys pick. We picked where we were going to start based on opening times and what they kind of wanted to do. And then we kind of just said, okay, have at it. We don't have any lightning lanes. You guys just are going to pick what we're going to do. They had a blast. They had so much fun. It didn't matter what we did that day. It just mattered that they got to choose, right? They just wanted to be a part of that. And hearing from our community, our good friend Kristen also said something similar. She said, so for me, my kids have gone to Disney enough times, 7 and 8 times. They really only want to focus on the things that are new when we go, or the things that they have missed in prior trips. They are now 15 and 12. And they have their favorite things that they always want to do. Each of them get to pick a dining experience and a must-do ride that they have been to before. But they've become really accustomed to enjoying the newer and not experienced things at Disney when we go. They like to experience new rides. They're not as much into shows, but new places to eat. They went to eat and stay their way around the different resorts in Disney Springs. They, of course, like to beat their previous scores or whoever they're riding with on things like Toy Story Mania or the new Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger spin. But even now, they really still like to be involved in the planning. I'll even catch my teenage boy before a trip watching Disney food blog to get ideas. My husband and son went this month after a baseball tournament, and they got to experience all of the new things at the parks, which they both really enjoyed. But I think their favorite part was going to the Oak Trail to golf. It's a really affordable thing, especially if your teenager is under 18, which we talked about that actually just the previous episode. But she mentions that her son's clubs were $11 to rent because he's a minor, even though he's over 6 feet tall now. When they were younger, the stories would have been way more focused on reacting to characters, the magic of the nighttime shows, but they've kind of grew up as Disney kids, and these things I described above are now their favorite parts. So being actively involved, getting to choose, getting to make those choices, and having a say in what you do, I think is so important. Not only just to give them a voice, but to give them those special memories whenever you're in the parks. It makes them feel more grown up and give them more responsibility, which can be really magical and special for them. Let's talk about now maybe some of the best small moments that you might be able to find while you're at the Disney parks. But I'm going to start this section off by a message from our good friend Rhonda, who talked about her two girls who are older now, but have have a ton of Disney memories and experiences. So Rhonda said, our girls are older, but they too have some very vivid favorite Walt Disney World memories. Pin trading. Our eldest used to feel badly about walking away if the cast members didn't have a pin she wanted. She learned very quickly from numerous wonderful cast members that it was no big deal, however. She'd usually buy cheaper pin sets to trade, though, because all of her pins were her favorites, right? Anytime you get a pin, it's hard to decide if you want to trade it away. She said, I love this one because it's very unexpected. Both girls loved the Carousel of Progress. They were fascinated with the history and they loved the song. I love that so much. My kids are the same way with Spaceship Earth. Never in 1,000 years would I have thought that Spaceship Earth was going to be something that they were that obsessed with. But they love, love, love Spaceship Earth. And it's one that they ask to go on every time we go to Epcot. Part of it, I think, is the novelty, right, of being inside of the giant Epcot ball. But they also just really like the attraction, which is so interesting. Rhonda also mentioned that both girls loved watching the top 7 must-sees at Walt Disney World on Resort TV in the hotel room. I also love that one because my kids are the same way. We love watching like the parks TV stuff that's on the resort TVs in your hotel room. Rhonda also said our youngest still talks about how much she loved The People Mover, and she lists A Great Movie Ride, RIP, as her nostalgic favorite. And she also mentions our eldest was 11 the first time we visited, and she said she used to love seeing all the younger kids who had been to the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique as something fun to experience. And she also mentioned a favorite story involves a Walt Disney World bus driver. We were getting on his bus at Caribbean Beach Resort, and he opened the door, looked at our girls, and loudly announced, "Epcot, it's not a request." And they still laugh about it and repeat it to this day, which is such a fun little moment to have together, right? So thank you, Rhonda and Kristen and Melissa, who sent in stuff for me to include in this episode. I love getting to hear people's little magical moments and things like that as well. And our good friend Anna in the live chat here is saying, my mom and I have so many traditions, but Epcot will be our favorite always. We've made trips just for Epcot before, which I love that, right? You got to get your magic where you can get it. So let's talk about some little small places in the parks that you can maybe find some extra magic. Over at Animal Kingdom, doing the Wilderness Explorers activity with your kids is a really fun way to find a little bit of extra magic with your kiddos as you're walking around. Making sure you take the time to walk through the animal trails and looking at all of the animals, reading some of what the descriptions are, talking to the cast members that are kind of stationed periodically throughout. They always have a ton of really great insight, and that just makes the trip more special. And you can do that at Animal Kingdom. Not only can we follow some of these stories of like babies being born on the safari and different things like that online, but then we can actually go see them and point them out. The baby giraffe Tucker that was born a few years back was really, really popular. Everybody wanted to go see him on the safari. I just saw this week that there's a new baby and collie cattle on the safari, and that's the first baby they've ever had at Animal Kingdom. So getting to go see that after you've, seen it on Instagram or TikTok or wherever. But things like that are super fun. Stopping to listen to any of the live performers at Animal Kingdom. There are several like streetmosphere style performers. There's the drummers in Africa. There's a whole band over kind of at the entrance to, well, what used to be Dinoland USA, what will be the Tropical Americas on that side. Also, all of the live performers that you can see. The other thing over at Animal Kingdom is taking the time to go out to the new Bluey experience. That one's a little bit more of like a true attraction, I guess I would say, but it is newer and they do have like a kangaroo walkthrough out there as well. So taking the time, it's a little bit of a hassle, right? To get on, wait for the train, get on the train, get out there and doing all of those things. But I think it's definitely worth it over at Animal Kingdom. Animal Kingdom has lots of little nooks and crannies around the Tree of Life too that you can go and explore and look at the different animals. And if you've got kiddos that are really into animals, see how many you can find, right? How many of the animals on this section of the Tree of Life can we name? And there are guides online that you can look up that show like what animals are where, and they name all of them. So like you can pull one of those up and have it ready to go. So that way you can see it for reference if you need to when you're doing that with your kids. So again, those are just a few of the many, many spaces at Animal Kingdom that you can find maybe just a little bit of magic for you and your kiddos. So let's talk about Epcot. What are some of these little small moment places that you can find? Taking the time in World Showcase to do the Kid Cot station. That can be so much fun being able to visit all of the countries, talk to the cast members that are there. I'm so glad that after the pandemic, they brought back the international cast members that are working in those different pavilions, but taking the time to do those little activities and kind of coinciding with that, taking an hour or two to do any of the scavenger hunts. We talk about the scavenger hunts all the time over here on Mom Street. I love the Epcot scavenger hunts just for myself to do. They're so much fun. So that can be something really fun to do. Taking some time over by the Imagination Pavilion to play in the jumping fountains that are over there, and the looking at the upside down waterfall that exist over near the exit of Figment. That can be really fun. Same thing goes for, of course, the Moana Journey of Water. That's a little bit more of a popular attraction, but taking the time to go through that, my kids absolutely love that attraction. So taking the time, we visited it several times on our last trip because they just loved it so much. Again, watching the performers in World Showcase or catching the Encanto show up at that stage near the center of World Discovery. Is that what that one's called now? I'm still, you think that I would learn these names of Epcot by now, but it's taking me a lot longer than it did previously. But catching any of the performers, the drummers in Japan and the Voices of Liberty singers in the America Pavilion. There's like a juggler in Italy. There's so many different things that you can find out in World Showcase, and just taking the time to stop and listen and check it out, I think can be super fun. And then Epcot has a ton of play areas too, which I've talked about them previously on an episode where we talked about, the play areas and different things to do with your kiddos, but Epcot has a lot of them. So taking the time to let your kiddos explore, the exit of Mission Space is one. The exit of the Finding Nemo ride when you go into the aquarium. They've not only got aquarium stuff, there's a play area in there as well. The exit of Figment has all those interactive different places that you can do. All of those places are really great spots to find a little extra magic, a little unexpected magic in the small moments, and just let your kids have a good time being kids in the parks, right? Over at Hollywood Studios, a couple things that you can consider for some of these small moments. Taking the time when you are walking through Toy Story Land, find some shade because it's lacking there and it's very hot, and checking out the Green Army Drum Corps that comes by with their drums and marching through. That is such a fun little, like, slept on experience, I feel like, that it's one that I would definitely put on this list for sure. We talked about Animation Courtyard again. I think that space is such a great way to find these little magical moments over there. Also going to see the Disney Junior show that is over there. I cannot wait. The end of the summer, the rest of that space is supposed to open up, and there's going to be a new playground that is Alice in Wonderland themed back there also. So any of that space is great to just take some time, let your kids lead the way, let them figure out and decide what they want to do while you're over there. Oh, and also viewing and looking for any characters in the Star Wars areas in Galaxy's Edge primarily, but also Darth Vader tends to hang out around Star Tours now, but finding some of those more obscure characters, like looking for Vi Marati, which if you listened to our Star Wars episode with Stevie back a few months ago, you'll know who Vi Marati is. Or looking for Rey or Chewbacca or any of those characters while you are walking around in Galaxy's Edge can also be a really fun little moment that you can take to just slow down, let your kids experience something completely unique and magical while you're in that park. And then ending with Magic Kingdom. I already talked a little bit earlier about a few of these, but having a picnic in the hub grass, whether that's you bring your food in or you grab food from, like, Casey's is super close, or you grab it from somewhere else that's maybe a little bit far away and bring it to the hub grass. Again, there's not a ton of shade, which is really unfortunate, but if you can do it when it's not super hot, or you can find a little corner that's got some shade and get lucky with that. But having a picnic in the hub grass or just letting the kids run around and play in the hub grass can be a super fun, magical time and give mom and dad a moment to have a break. And maybe mom and dad can split a Sunday from the Plaza ice cream shop that's right on the end of Main Street there while the kids are running around and grabbing a bite here and there from your ice cream sundae. Watching the train or riding on the train. Right? My kids love the train. It's a little bit of a bummer right now because it's just a shuttle train that runs between Fantasyland and Main Street and you don't get the full loop, but we love the train. So either sitting and watching the train or riding on the train. Same thing goes for like the monorail, sitting and watching the monorail go by. My kids love to do that. We'll sit on those like planters that are out right outside of the gates of Magic Kingdom and just like hang out there. They love watching the monorail go by. Again, it's the what we view as like the silliest little things, but it's so impactful for them. Stopping and listening to the Dapper Dans or stopping and listening to the Main Street Philharmonic marching band that they have. Any of those things are really great options as well. Something else to note if you are someone that's got a trip between now and like Labor Day, they are doing the Cool Kids Summer again, which means there are a ton of characters out during early entry in Fantasyland and in other parks as well. You'll find some extra characters, but in Fantasyland at Magic Kingdom, you can find those. So spending your 30-minute early entry going and talking to characters. We did that on one of our Magic Kingdom mornings on our last trip, and my kids got to meet like 8 characters in a span of like 20 minutes, and it was unbelievable, and my kids still talk about getting to just like walk right up to Mickey who was walking around, and I have like the best videos and photos. My kids got to meet Rapunzel and Flynn. Flynn Rider was with her, and my son had a little crossbody bag on that he was carrying, and Flynn and my son compared what was in their satchels together. So like those moments, you just have to let them be and let them happen, right? And really truly enjoy them in the moment when they're happening, because you never know what might be the biggest memory that sticks with your kid as you recap your trip and talk about it after you get home, right? So I will leave you with this as we kind of wrap up this episode for today. Some things to just consider that maybe as a parent or an adult that is going with kids to the parks that you should maybe just remind yourself to not stress about. And this list is also for me because I'm such a type A planner when it comes to the Disney parks with my kids. This is something that I need to just remember and relax. And if one of these kind of strikes a chord with you, just remember on your next trip to take a step back. So, some things to stop stressing about as we end this episode. Missing one ride in a park. It doesn't matter. Your kiddos will never know because you're a smart parent and you did all their favorites first. So, by the time you get to the end of the day, that one ride that's left over doesn't matter. This one is big for me, having the perfect lightning lane strategy. Okay, y'all know how much I love doing lightning lanes and how it's like, it's my thing. But when I'm there with my family, I cannot stress about that, right? I can stress about that on when I'm helping other people with their trips. When it's my own trip, I need to not stress about it as much. Stressing about seeing everything. You will not see everything unless you take 2 full weeks in the parks every day, and that's just exhausting. So don't stress if you miss something. Again, prioritize and you'll be fine. Don't stress about staying until park close every day. This used to be a really big one for me until like the last trip that we went. I think on the last trip that we took with my family, we did Fantasmic because my kids obsessed with Fantasmic. We did Fantasmic twice actually, but we didn't do any of the other fireworks shows. My kids didn't care to or didn't want to, or it rained, or they just wanted to go back to the room. So we said, okay, and just stop stressing about feeling like you have to have every minute scheduled. It's just not necessary. Don't give yourself more stress than you need to, right? And just remember, your kiddo probably won't remember that you missed riding Under the Sea with Ariel. What they will remember is eating popcorn, sitting next to you on the curb, waiting for the Starlight Parade to start. Sarah in our live chat is saying everyone takes on Disney differently. Just slow down and enjoy the magic that it is. Exactly. And Kristen in our live chat is saying, you're so right on this. They always remember the things you typically don't spend extra money on. And Kristen also said, I had to change what I like to do, which is start early, stay all day, and be at the parks till the end. They like to take a break between 2 and 5 and swim at the pool, which is exactly like, especially as they get older and can make some of those choices. That's perfect. Exactly. Rhonda shared a fun moment here in our live chat. Riding Seven Dwarfs Mine Train over and over in the pouring rain made us all laugh. I love that. Those memories are just so much fun. Yeah, Zach, I'm the same way. Zach in our live chat is saying, as someone who grew up rope dropped a fireworks show, I really struggle with the midday resort break. It's so hard, but sometimes it's so necessary just to have the right attitude and have the right mindset for everybody in your group going forward. So I totally get that, Zach, and I'm with you, but sometimes you just gotta shift. You just gotta shift, right? So as we kind of close this episode, I hope that I gave you some fun things to think about. And just remember, when your kids are adults, they probably won't remember every ride that you got to go on at Disney, but they'll remember how it felt, right? They'll remember the ice cream you ate, the music, the parade, the character that waved at them, the silly moments with their family. Sometimes the magic isn't in those headline attractions, it is in the moments in between them. So that is my words of wisdom that I leave you with for today. Thank you guys so much for being here for this episode of Mom Street USA. Coming up next, we are returning back to the hub with Duck and Jess, so definitely join us next week for that. But for today, thank you all for your support. Thank you for being here. If you've got additional questions or you want to share some of your moments, I would love to hear them. Please reach out to me, momstreetusa@gmail.com or at momstreetusa on all of our social medias, including our Patreon, which again is a great place to connect together with this community. Thank you guys so much for your support and being here, and I will see you on the next episode of Mom Street USA. Bye, everyone.